Hi everyone, welcome back. This is really our last week of class. Can you believe it? So only 2 more lectures for today, Monday, and then Wednesday, and that is it. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, but a lot of confusion. And I don't know if people, if you ever take an online class or something like this ever happens again, one of the most critical things in an online course or virtual course or whatever they're calling it is to read all emails carefully and checking your email freaking as much as you check TikTok or Instagram. And I know you aren't doing that crap. You're not checking it as much as you're checking the old TikTok, are you? You got to do it because many of the questions you all are emailing me can be answered if you read the emails and watch the videos. Yeah, that's the other thing you got to do. I'm doing these live. I am not reusing old videos, so I'm updating you with important information. I'm also going to go to our Blackboard page right now because people are saying, we don't know where anything is. Woo! Okay, here's your Blackboard. This is what it looks like. I've added another new tab. Okay, we are done with the scientific method paradigm. We are done with the interpretive paradigm. We are now done with the critical rhetorical paradigm. Okay? This is our last topic. It's right here. It is called conversation and discourse analysis. As I alluded to before, these are two very special types of research, and they do not fit neatly into the above 3. Many communication programs do not even talk about these 2 areas of research or do them. It is because we in the School of Communication have a specialist in conversation analysis. That's all he does. He's an excellent researcher, and we've also had the great opportunity to have some students, graduate students under him, who when he retires in the next few years will be carrying on his research in this very kind of specialized research. We're going to call that research, both of them together, conversation and discourse analysis. So we're covering them separately. When you click on this link, what are you going to find here? You're going to find the PowerPoint. Hopefully you're finding the video and watching it right now. You will find your clicker questions right below it. Okay? So just scroll a little further. Another good tip, if you ever take an online course, is make sure you scroll all the way down a page and read what these headers are because they're right there. All right, assignments. There are no more assignments, so you are not going to be going to the assignment tab again. However, we do have exams coming up. So I'm going to click on the exam tab real quick because we will be seeing exam 2 come up there, and you're still using course documents, which is where your study guides are. We have not covered everything on the exam 3 study guide. People are already calling me or emailing me, and saying, look, this isn't on the study guide. Don't worry, we're not done yet. We got a whole nother week. Okay, hang in there. This is cumulative. 50 questions. You will have 2 hours for the exam. I will be going over all 3 study guides, and I'm not done yet. So just hang in there. All right, so we are in conversation and discourse. Now you know where all your clicker questions and everything like that are going to be. Again, since you're also registering for classes and there's a lot of you still wondering what you should do, I've shown you this again, but if you go to the School of Communication website under academic programs, undergraduate, whether you are comm major or health comm, it shows you everything that you have to take. And remember, this class is one of your foundations because you must complete 3 units in one more in-depth. I have given you an intro to quantitative scientific method. I have given you a general introduction to critical and cultural methods. And yes, there'll be a lot of rhetoric. This class is typically taught by a rhetorician. I have given you an introduction into interpretive. You'll go more into depth in ethnography. We are now going to cover this kind of one-off section of conversational analysis interaction. This is what this course would be about, and I'll give you an idea of what you would be doing in there. So again, generally these are the three main ones. This is a very specialized area of research that not very many people do, and that's why it's kind of hanging out here separate. So let's get back to the actual topic then and talk about today's lesson, which is conversational analysis. Wow! Boom! Okay, sorry. Coffee is kicking in this morning. All right, so we are in chapter 10. Remember this thing? This is what this looks like. Chapter 10. Good chapter. I like it. And we're going to talk about what this conversation analysis research is. So, conversational analysis, as it says here, approach to the study of natural conversation. What it looks at is the in-depth conversation, usually between two participants. And when I mean in-depth, I mean way more detail than you would ever imagine. So, it takes into account how long I just paused before I said that so, the fact that I dragged that so out, the tone of my voice, how I construct my words together, and does it have a certain meaning that I put one word before another word and the word that came after that? You getting this with me? Very technical. Let's just leave it at technical. I'm going to drink some more coffee because I really think that will help. So, it looks at how people take turns. Oftentimes, when we study nonverbal, we know that a pause is an opening in a conversation. Sometimes the upturn of a voice saying, "But I'm really not sure," is a cue to you to take the conversation, the partner they're talking to. So it's the constructing again of sequences and utterances. Do I put fillers in my sentences? Does that mean I'm unsure of what I'm saying? So it looks at eye gaze and movement. Did my eyes turn up? We know that when people are engaged in cognitive thought, they often look up to the right or to the left. It is making sense of every single little detail and word and pause and movement and turn taking that happens in a conversation. So I want you to get to that technical aspect of conversational analysis. For that reason, if we were going to put it in a paradigm, we say it would fall under the discovery or scientific method paradigm because it is data driven, much like surveys are all numbers and data driven. So is conversational analysis. It is very data driven, where we count pauses and turns and sequences. The best way to understand this, I think, is to look at a conversational analysis transcript, which they do have for you, or they have some translation symbols or transcription symbols on page 196. And these, I know you can't see it down here on the screen, but I'll put this page up in case you don't have a book. They want to know the start of overlapping talk, if talk overlaps between two people, if there's a notable pause, if I took in a breath, if there was laughter bubbling over it. A dash shows a sharp cutoff in conversation. So you're dealing with transcripts, and instead of coding them for themes or meanings, instead what you're doing is this detailed coding and precise coding. There are symbols. You don't just make up your own interpretations. That's interpretive. There are precise symbols. Slower speech, faster speech, no discernible pause. That means something. Every single thing that happens in a conversation is noted, and looked at. That is the technical aspect of it. All right, so you're still dealing with transcripts. Usually they're transcripts that have already happened. In other words, it's not the same thing as the transcript for an interview. This would just be transcribing someone's conversation, a generic conversation, and looking for, I spilled coffee everywhere. Ah! This is really getting out of hand. All right. Looking for a conversation. You're looking at how they're talking. Not so much what they're talking about, but how they are talking about it. So, again, you rely on transcripts and their audio or videotape sources. That's how you have evidence, if you will, in conversational analysis. Your claims will explain what one utterance does or accomplishes. So where CA is mostly used in our department is Dr. Beach looks at conversations between patients and doctors and cancer. And when you tell someone that they have cancer, how long does it take before they say something? What is the first word they utter? What is usually what precedes it? How does a doctor tell someone they have cancer? Maybe some of you have been through this, and if you haven't, it's a little bit fascinating, only because I have had cancer, and I remember specifically how the doctor told me. It was very straightforward and a very matter-of-fact voice with no utterances after it. It was just like, and it came back, positive or whatever. Now I can't remember, right? She said it was positive for 2 different types of cancer. And I kind of sat there like, oh, I think I might have just nodded my head. Then she handed me a pamphlet and said, here's a pamphlet that will tell you more about your type of cancer. And that was it. She left. And I'm just like, holy ding-dong, So that conversation and the way the sequence and how it unfolded and what they said and the utterances that were made have meaning to the conversation analysis. That's what they're looking for. So their unit of analysis is literally, you see there in the PowerPoint, utterances, sentences, a speaking turn, or even could be a larger sequence of talk. This sequence about telling someone they have cancer is interesting to me because it's usually met with a sequence from the doctor and no sequence back from the patient. Because I think as the patient, at least speaking from my experience, it's just not real. There is nothing to say back. And that should be a learning curve to doctors, that they need to say more. They need to do this in a better way to try to get more out of the patient before they leave. So that's where all this conversational analysis research goes. It's trying to help people have more meaningful conversations about issues by looking at what is said. I mean, you could take a typical fight. I'm fine. Okay. Wow, there's so much meaning in the way that was uttered, the word that was chosen. I just had to explain to my friend in India, never to use the word fine. Don't, especially not to a girl. Okay, don't do it. Fine is bad. It's like being a nice guy. It's bad. And he's like, a nice guy is bad. I'm like, so bad. You don't even know. Right? And so that's what we're looking at. These utterances, yes. And when people speak and when people interrupt, that's also part of it. So we often concentrate on turn taking. This is the idea of who is speaking and at what time. I love analyzing turn taking because a lot of people say that women interrupt more. In reality, we do not. Men tend to interrupt and take conversation over more than women. Women tend to use more fillers, which means we go, I understand. Oh, wow, that's interesting. Now, men see that as interrupting. Women just see it as complimenting the conversation and showing interest. So again, utterances that are serving two different purposes to the people talking. And if we can analyze that, we can better begin to understand that. So we look a lot at who's talking and how they're talking and in what sequence. That's called turn taking. Turn construction, what counts as a speaking turn, and turn allocation specifies who gets to speak and when. And turn allocation, again, is what I find interesting. Oftentimes, women do not get as allocated as many turns to speak as men. And again, this analysis of, you could do an analysis of just turn taking between small groups. I guarantee you turn allocation is not given to women as much as it is given to men, just counting the allocation of turns. So that's something we draw meaning from in conversation analysis. We also look to see if two turn sequences are structured in a way that makes sense. The first turn calls or invites for a second turn. In other words, what that's basically saying is if I say something, if I ask you a question, what is the next turn that should happen? You are then allocated the turn to construct your response, which should be an answer. And when conversations don't happen in this way, problems can arise. My friend in India, it's a very, what we call a high context culture. So they never answer anything directly. And it kills me because I ask a question, guess what I don't get? Never get an answer. He violates this conversational analysis all the time. Interestingly enough, here's another common one. Someone compliments you. You look great today. Someone says, your hair looks great. There's a response that is expected. That should happen. What is the response? Well, for women, generally, we say, oh no, I didn't even wash it, which is true. I didn't today. I've gotten lazy. Don't you dare tell me you're all dressed up with makeup on and wearing jeans. Nobody is wearing jeans in lockdown. I'm wearing pants, though, at this moment. Actually, it's a dress, but another story, another time. All right. That is not the response, particularly ladies, guys are looking for. As a matter of fact, most research says it annoys them because it is not the sequence that's supposed to take place. You are not supposed to brush the compliment off and make yourself sound worse. You're actually supposed to say, thank you, and move on. And when that doesn't happen, when sentence sequences are supposed to happen that don't happen, that's when we see problems and conflicts arise. I mean, think about it. I greet someone, you're supposed to greet me back. If I was like, hi, and you just walked right by me, looked me in the face and said nothing, that would be a problem. You didn't follow the sequence. Complaint, apology. I don't think I even need to explain that one. If you complain about something, I have to have standards and stick by them. I cannot treat people differently. That would cause a ton of problems. And so right now I understand a lot of the situations some of you are in and the struggles you're having. I really do. Doesn't mean I can change all the rules for every single individual person. No, I can't. And that, I think, is frustrating to you all because I'm not finishing the sequence in the way you want to hear. Okay? So I try to at least employ empathy, and I almost always will start an email saying, I understand, but here's where we're at, and you might react very poorly to that because I'm not following the sequence in the way you would want me to. So hopefully this is making sense. Invitation, these are just some examples that come up in the book, like an invitation, acceptance, decline, which is fascinating in this world now because particularly in California, nobody accepts or declines an invitation until 5 minutes after the event has already started. Anyway, it's a California thing. All right. So those are some examples just of what we call adjacency pairs, turn sequences that are supposed to invite or call for a second turn. And when we don't answer in a second turn that we are expecting, that's where conversations seem to become problematic and can cause problems because we're violating the turn sequences. So when that violation happens, we certainly have a preferred organization. There's a lot of ways people could respond, but we usually prefer a certain response. We have already in our mind what that response should be. So, for instance, I came home the other day and I said I ran a mile under 10 minutes. I'm pretty happy about this, people, okay? 50 is staring me in the face, and I can still run a mile in under 10 minutes. So I was really happy. So what kind of response was I looking for? You're supposed to tell me, "Oh, that's amazing. Good for you. You're working hard. You're making it happen." Yeah. I didn't get that response. I got, "Well, I can run a mile in 7-8 minutes." And I'm like, yeah. Okay. So that was not my preferred response to my good news. It was a dispreferred response. I was like my mother. I already told this story, but when I came home for Thanksgiving and she didn't even say hello. There was no greeting. She just said, "What did you do to your hair?" Pause, but didn't give me long enough to even answer her, so cut me off from the turn sequence, which says something, and then said, "I don't like it." And my response to her was, "Hi, Mom, good to see you too." And so you see how the conversation didn't make sense. We didn't get our preferred responses. And a lot of times we get dispreferred responses. And when that happens, we have to engage in repair. Interact and attempt to resolve controversial trouble. So actually, if I go back to the running incident, I was like, they said I can run a kilometer in 7 to 8 minutes. And I thought, well, that's a kilometer. I'm talking about a mile. Well, you should get on the metric system like everyone else in the running world. And I was like, okay, so now we are two negative or two dispreferred responses into this conversation. What is the likely action that's about to come out of this? That's called me walking away and ending the conversation. And that's something that conversation analysis would look at. How many dispreferred response or sequences in a row till the conversation ends completely? So action sequences. How many action sequences did we go through? Only 2, because by then I was done because I was still getting dispreferred responses. So it says when conversational participants expand on 2 turn sequences before, during, and after the turns. Okay, so we're talking about accomplishment, congratulations, maybe our adjacency pair. And I put that out there. There's a pre-expansion, which is any conversation that happened before that. In this case, we had both gone running. Inter-expansions, we expanded for a little bit on, well, what is the difference between a kilometer and a mile? The post-expansion, in this case, we really didn't have one because I just walked away, but had we engaged again, that might have been another expansion on the conversation. But I walked away, so the conversation ended, which also has meaning. You could tell I was pissed, right? Yeah. She walks away and says nothing, not good, not good, not good. If she walks away and says she's fine in that tone, she's not fine. Just saying. All right. Okay, so guess what? That was CA. That's it. I'm going to talk about discourse analysis, which is already in this PowerPoint. It's a little bit different from conversational analysis, but I'm hoping that you can see the very technical aspect at which we code and look at not what is being said. That's interpretive. This is how it's being said and in what sequences and what turns. All right. That, my friends, is conversational analysis. You will have some clicker questions, and those clicker questions will be right here after I post the video and the questions for you to answer. In order to avoid confusion, let me just again say you will have until Wednesday at class time to answer these questions today. Some of you are pushing it right to the limit. You're logging in at 10:59 and expecting to answer the questions. It's gonna cut you off at 11 or at 10 or whichever one of your class times that it starts. So please give yourself at least 5 minutes. Okay, they are for participation, so even if you get one wrong, don't worry. I'm going back and changing everything to 5 points. I'm looking that you tried, guys. That's all I'm asking for here, is that you tried. All right, that is conversation analysis. I'll be back on Wednesday. I'll finish up with discourse analysis. And what's going to happen next week is I'm going to start to bring all three of the paradigms together and talk about what all three need to be successful. And that's where you're going to hear some stuff more about warrants, and we're going to start reviewing. So that's where we're at. I hope you're still with us because we are almost there, guys. All right, and Friday will be office hours. Please zoom in if you have questions or concerns. Stay healthy, stay well, and I will see you on Wednesday.